Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. Alrighty. Welcome back. Um, you know, I mean, today's going to be a great day because, first of all, I always love speaking to authors. I just have such mad respect for people who diligently sit down and put pen to paper, create something that leaves a legacy because books leave legacies, stories leave legacies. And I always find it interesting when I get an author that just had a driving passion and that book was not part of, you know, a specific sales cycle or an academic piece to train the team or anything, that it truly is coming from a point of passion. And today our guest is one of those authors, that this is a book that is from a point of passion and just felt that the message needs to be shared further. I do love the fact that we all live within a perception of where the world's at. And sometimes we just need to step back and realize that we all live within a perception of the world. So Dr. Christine Cooper is a reforming mean girl who has dedicated herself to consciously developing exceptional people skills and growing her emotional intelligence. She counts herself fortunate to having long-lasting worldwide friendships, strong family bonds, and rewarding patient relationships. As a licensed pharmacist, Christine holds a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from the University of New Mexico. She revels in the adventure of working with people from all types of backgrounds to improve the practice of pharmacy. So let's bring her in here. I'm super excited to have this conversation. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Kim?
I am doing awesome, doing better now that you're here. And if you guys are just listening to this, I do want you to pop over to YouTube and check out this video because Christine, you have absolutely stunning eyes, and I don't know if you took your eyes to go match your shirt, but that color on you is perfect.
Oh,
Perfect. Now
thank you.
everybody wants to go check out the YouTube. Okay, let's dive into this. First, let's find out a little bit more about Dr. Christine Cooper. Can you share with us who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe a bit of your journey of getting to where you are?
Sure. So I'm in my mid 40s. I have been worldwide, and you alluded to that when going through my bio, but I have gotten to travel to many countries at this point in my life, and I still try and get out to at least one new country every year. I love to get outside of my comfort zone. And when I was a child, we moved around a lot. My dad was in the Navy before I was born, but after I was born, he worked for a government contractor. And so we had to move around a lot to wherever the contract was. And so I went to 4 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools before graduating high school. Um, I then moved into my college career and thankfully went to one college. Actually, I take that back. I did go to 2 colleges. I started off at a community college, but I graduated with my undergrad from the University of New Mexico and then moved into getting my graduate degree there as well. Um, all of that travel and change in my life resulted in not necessarily having consequences for a lot of my actions, like long-term actions, because I was in a school for maybe a year or two, and then it was time to go. And it did develop into a mean girl persona because that's how I was able to gain, and I'll put them in quotes, friends quickly, because it's very difficult to have true and good friends when you're not nice to people. So it was a challenge to figure out, once I was a little bit more settled in life, that there are consequences, and I'm here to share those.
I love the fact that you're putting some parameters around this because I think a lot of people that we see that are in the mean girl or a dominant position, um, it's more of a defense. It's more to protect themselves than really what they're wanting to project out. They're not I don't maybe I'm naive, but I don't believe that most people here are born mean or want to be. I think we have to learn these things in order to protect ourselves from what we know is inevitable or where we're sitting. So let's go through what you've discovered in going through this journey because I know that writing a book is pretty in depth. It can be a bit arduous. Um, let's go through what you did discover and what you wanna share, and then we're gonna pull it apart a little bit more. How's that?
That sounds good.
So, go for it. Tell me what you discovered in going down this journey of having to heal your own, limitations, your own behaviors around making friends and getting those lifelong friends, um, and then why that's in this book, why you are moving this forward.
So with the book itself, it was one of those things that developed because I knew I love to write, and I love to share stories of my life and how those can impact, what I learned from that story and how it impacted life. I've shared those with friends that I have developed now and helped them navigate difficult situations. And I had actually picked up one of those books on how to write a book because I knew I wanted to write one. And in there, it talks about what is the unique piece that you have that you know that you can do, that you can share with the world. What are you passionate about? Um, and so these were the stories that I already knew were good to share with others. I have been sharing them with others, and so I started writing them down. Um, and then from those, I was like, how do I get these messages? How do I share the rest of the message? And so in the book, I would tell the story and then what was the lesson that was learned from that. Um, and as part of that, another reason why this book is such a passion project for me is, one of the lessons I have learned, of course, is that gossiping is a very negative thing. However, we still need room to vent. And so I have created a rule for myself, and that rule is, I'm allowed to complain about something twice. And at that point, I either have to do something about it or I have to let it go. And well, you see people every day who are impacting their lives in negative ways and they don't mean to. That who wants to go out and be like, I want to have a bad day. Let me go piss off somebody. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they don't realize that because of their action and how they have treated that person's going to stand up for themselves, and it could potentially give a bad day. Um, but you see that so often. So in following my I can complain about this twice, but then I have to do something about it rule, I said, well, this is never going to go away in life. Even after reading this book, like, it takes a lot of effort to be this person. Um, so I needed to do something about it. And this is how I did something about it.
And really like that practice of vent twice,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to take action, right? And if you And honestly, I see a lot of people, especially on social media with the polarization between political or what's going on in the world, and we see them come in, and it's almost like they have this bullying attitude, and yet they're not in politics. They're not in religion. They're not in city council. They're not, and everybody seems to have opinions that can escalate, and they tend to lose the social intelligence, right? As it escalates and they get more confirmed to be in a certain spot, and they can get really hurtful. Like, a lot of
Mhm.
these people can get really hurtful. Um, so you can vent twice, but then you need to either move on or take action. I love that, because once you vent twice or once you speak to it twice, then it becomes, does that then after that start shifting into the gossip space?
It does, yes.
So what are some other I guess uh check stops that you've put in place for yourself to move past the kind of the surface friendship or service, whatever, kind of mean girl, whatever it was, and move into that deeper person? So we have that vent twice. What are a few other things that you've put in place to help guide you to a deeper connection?
Um, you know, let's say I'm at work, and I work with a bunch of wonderful people, so I'm not calling anybody out with this. But let's say there's somebody at work who's just annoying me today. And I'm going to take a moment before I respond to this annoyance. And I'm going to look at that person. I'm going to say, you know what? One of the things that they do better than anybody else is maybe they're very detail oriented. And that's why they're annoying me, because I'm not super detail oriented and they're getting into the nitty gritty. And I need to step back and say, you know what? They are trying to make me better. And I value that even though it's annoying me. So how can I remove my emotions from this and give them space to do what they are good at, and then we both get better as a result.
I love that. And I think that just the skill set around identifying what the other person is bringing to the table.
Mhm.
That is great. Um, do you feel, in going through this journey, that having those surface friendships, so those were those short term, the ones that, you moved, that, I mean, where are you at, like, I guess, within your center, your person, your soul, however we want to look at this, since you've started shifting from surface deep to deeper connections, right? By learning to navigate your own challenges, like you said, around gossiping and such. And I mean, it's hard, folks. I mean, we've got TV out there. I mean, Orange County Housewives. What are those women always doing, right? All they do is
Right.
gossip. God. The ultimate definition of mean girl is one of the housewife shows, and they make money off of it because that kind of behavior, I think people watch because they like to rubberneck from a car accident and such. But walk me through a little bit of your journey and what you can anticipate other people who join you on this journey, the feelings or the emotions of that deeper connection.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned in the book, and you've we've used the word a couple times now, is the word reforming. I do not end it in an ed. I end it in an ing, because this is a work in progress, and it's going to be a work in progress for the rest of my life. um, I have to stop myself and self-reflect all the time. And if there is a situation that um, comes up and I realize I did not handle it in the best fashion, and there is a better way to move it forward, and I have thought of that better way to move it forward, it's my duty to go take it to that person and first off say I'm sorry for not being who I needed to be in that moment. But hopefully we can rebuild that trust and move forward together. This is my action. And see if they're willing to do that. And even if I don't have an action to improve it, and I recognize that, you know what, I handled this poorly. Let me go have that conversation. That you need, that bravery within inside of us is so important, to ensure that, I call it building the value, but then you need to maintain the value. And it's necessary for both.
What was the catalyst for you? So, what was that moment that you said, "I have to change the way I was wired?" And you were wired that way to survive, and that's understandable. This is nothing against parents, this is nothing against travel. I mean, if there's all different walks of life, right? And, I mean, your childhood also probably helped, fuel your wanderlust to
Mm-hmm.
explore the world and meet people, but it also brought in these coping mechanisms that maybe weren't so nice. What was the catalyst? And I'm guessing there was something that just, like, you sat up and said, "Wait a minute. This isn't the next half of my life." What was the
Um,
catalyst?
there are many little points, but there definitely was one. But before I get into that, I do want to say one of the nice things, in addition to what you're talking about in terms of wanderlust, and having been in so many new schools and being around so many different types of people, um, I felt and still feel that I was exposed to so many new ideas, and I am not afraid of the unknown because I've handled it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I 110% agree that, getting those opportunities and, meeting diverse individuals with different
Mhm.
experiences is so character building. I absolutely 110% agree. Um, so, in moving forward, there had to have been something that was an aha moment for you.
Yes.
I myself have had different aha moments that have brought me to the realization that, maybe this job is not where I belong, or maybe this career is I need to expand my options or opportunities because it's not feeding me anymore. What was what was that moment, that story behind going down, starting on this journey? Because I mean, there is it's a challenge. It's a
Mhm.
challenge when you sit here and go, "Oh crap," right? I've got to deal with me. So
Yes.
yes, yes, girlfriend, we gotta talk. And you're doing the conversation in front of a mirror. So what was that moment?
um, one of the one of the first, not the only, but one of the first long-term relationships I had was with my college best friend. And she was fun and she was exciting and I enjoyed her quite a bit. And she challenged me to grow academically and do things that I would not have felt brave enough to do without her insight and knowing how to get to the next steps academically. And I will forever be grateful for that in my life. We unfortunately had a falling out, and it was over gossip. The two of us bonded through gossip, and ultimately we turned on each other. And there was a point in time where I was talking with a mutual friend of ours, and I felt like there was this black hole inside of me, and I was trying to fill this black hole with this gossip about someone who was supposedly my best friend, and we weren't. I wasn't being good to her. Um, Truthfully, she wasn't being good to me either. The same was happening, but that was the foundation of our friendship, and the friendship crumbled through this. We were, both of us, trying to feed this black hole of gossip, and when we ran out of things to say about other people, we turned and started saying it about each other, and that's just not a good friendship. And I sat down and thought about myself after that fell apart, and a little bit before, but definitely afterwards, and just said, you know what, you need to be a better person. And it's today's the day to do that.
Um, you need to be a better person. Boy, if we all took on that mantle globally and just did one thing that helped us individually to be a better person, that like I think the world would be in a much better place. Much better place. What can so your new book is just recently released. Where first of all, where can we find the book?
You can find it online at any major retailer, at Barnes and Noble, Amazon, worldwide. You can discover it, so it's out there for everyone.
Awesome. So finding value, a reforming, not you again, the word reforming, mean
Mhm.
girl's guide. Um, what can the reader expect to take away from this book?
There are two things that I hope the readers take away from the book. One is actually the very first chapter is, in order for you to be able to find value in others, you need to know what you value in and of yourself. And so you need to value yourself. You need to value your time. And speaking of time, if you value your time and you want somebody else to value your time, you should probably value theirs.
Yep,
A little
absolutely.
reciprocation is always helpful. Um, and so starting with ourselves and knowing what we need, what are our boundaries, where do we set that line, how do we set that line. I call it creating a roadmap for others, because nobody can read my mind. They need directions on what I need, because they don't know it until I tell them. So yes, start there. But then for the second piece is getting outside of who you currently think you are, so you can learn about others. When you set yourself up in this box and you say, this is my box and this is my judgment and this is where I'm comfortable, you don't get to see all of the wonderful things that other people have to offer. And it keeps you, it's, you keep yourself in a box. Why do you do that?
Yeah, the you can't it's like fish. If you put a fish in a very small container, it stays small, but if you
Mhm.
put it in a big container, it grows bigger. Plants can only go as big as the container they're in. And I love that you're talking about being outside the box, right? Hold up that mirror and really see how am I showing up.
Mhm.
Um, so on this journey, so how does this relate with your engagement with the clients and the staff within your current position?
There's a lot that applies to both personal and work life going through this. And let's I love this example because it happens all the time. And it's a piece from the book, so you'll get to read it again if you get a copy of the book. But you know, you're working with somebody and you email them and you say, hey, I'm expecting this article from you today, or whatever the deliverable may be. I'm going to use article. And they're like, oh yeah, let me send that to you. And they grab a copy of it real quick and they send it to you and you get it and it's half done. And you're like, oh, they did not finish this. Like, I'm sure that's everybody's first thought, right? Let's take a step back. They were rushing. So you email them back and you say, hey, did you grab the wrong file? Because this one was only half filled out. It's happened so many times in my life where within the next 2 to 3 minutes, they're like, oh my goodness, I forgot. I grabbed the wrong file. You're right. Here's the right one. And all of a sudden you have a fully completed document. And I gave them that grace. And so I didn't accuse them of not completing their job. I let them know that, yes, they are important. And like, it's just little things like that you could accuse them, but then all of a sudden you are the difficult person to work with because you're mean when they accidentally grabbed the wrong file. Or you could be the one who is gracious and says, "Hey, you probably grabbed the wrong file," and they go, "Oh, I did," and they still like you. So,
Absolutely. Giving people, I think I love that word grace because that we all need to give people a little bit of space and a little bit of grace so that they can actually shine. And by using just that slightly different language instead of coming in pointing fingers and
mhm.
such. Absolutely. And that's also a sign of leadership. That's a sign of leadership. People who are willing to lead by example. Um, when we're looking at this, how do you feel that this will impact the reader's life in the sense of going to work, dealing with family members? You know, I always look at like, oh my gosh, we've got, a family barbecue coming up. Summer's here, or we've got holidays coming up, and I find that we can do the most damage to the people closest to us.
Mhm.
How do you feel that this is going to impact from work relationships to personal relationships for the reader?
Well, one of the biggest things I talk about is emotional regulation and not allowing your emotions to take over and control you. Being able to take a step back from them, have a calmer conversation. It puts you in control of where the conversation goes, even if it's an uncomfortable topic. And I've given several tips on how to manage that. Um, it- you know, I want my brain to be in control. Sometimes my heart is passionate and it gets the forefront as well. But overall, I want to be a caring and logical and good person to those around me. And sometimes people need some space so they can provide that as well. And maybe they haven't had that in the past. So they come prepared and they're ready for a fight because it's Thanksgiving at family time, and they know it's going to be a rough one because that's what happens at Thanksgiving, right?
Exactly, exactly. Somebody threw the cheesecake. I mean, I've lived this. We have crazy family in Kansas. And yeah, and I you know what? I think people come already wired. They're
Mm-hmm.
already ready and this is not every family out there, but this is definitely my family. Um in moving forward with this first step of the journey, I know that, you have an amazing career and, you're already utilizing these skill sets that you've put out into the book just to help. I mean, when people come into a pharmacy, half the time they're in pain, they're not feeling well. And when people don't have all those reserves, they can get a little, rowdy. Um, and I'm sure that a lot of these skill sets that you're now sharing with others come into play on a daily in your career. What are some other things that your goal is to move forward with this message and this book, and where are you going with all of this?
Well, in the future, I would love to be able to do some presentations and have those opportunities to connect with people so they can maybe discuss a situation and I can help them navigate through that. Um, Starting with the book, obviously, to get the message out there, and then moving forward from there.
And I think it's very timely because we're in a point. And I know it says Mean Girls. This can be unisex. It works for both, but I get where it's coming from. Um, but what I find interesting, and I was just having a conversation in regards to this. I have um, a great gal that I know, and she's a public speaker, been a public speaker for nearly 3 decades. She's very prolific in her career. And we were talking about the equalization within stage space for the leadership, sponsorship, mentorship, these women who can step in. and create messaging and guide people. And the Mean Girls thing is very interesting because until we change the path, currently it's like 35% of stages are female driven, and they are not the lead paid position on that stage typically.
Mhm.
And so we as women will, instead of working to build a bigger stage or create more spaces on that stage for women, we go, oh, there's only 3 spots. I better knock off knock off Barbara because I want on that stage, right? So then we're now using those mean girl defense mechanisms and that language to take one person off the stage instead of maybe extending the stage,
Mhm.
right? Um, what are some of the things that you think behavior wise that we just do instinctively that you really want to tackle in professional and personal lives?
It's very, I think instinctively, we put our needs in front. And that when you are valuing yourself, that is important.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say we should jump those to the side, but how do we pair our needs up with someone else's to create a win-win for everyone? How do we create that inclusivity where both of us can manage a positive outcome? We don't have to put someone down in order to build ourselves up. In fact, often when we put someone down, we're actually knocking ourselves down, and nothing happens to them, because when we do that, it reflects upon us and not the other person.
You know what, folks? That is like golden insight. And I do agree that when we're working to take somebody else down, we take ourselves down. We devalue our what we bring to the table. Um, you know what? I want to go through how people can find you and follow you as
Oh
you
yes.
emerge on this amazing journey. Because I do think that this is conversation that we really need, especially with social media. Really, I think social media really does reward and encourage mean behavior. And as we all grow up, getting that guidance to being a kinder individual, a more empathetic individual, somebody who can read the social cues and actually contribute as opposed to detract from things. Um, and I love that you're on this journey to recreating the perceptions, the dialogue, the engagement, and putting things like, you know what, venting twice. After that, you know what? You're going to be in the gossip territory. How do we move out of this? I love this. Where can we find you, follow you, engage with you as you are opening up your mind and your resources for others?
I am currently on Instagram and Twitter at author C Cooper. And I'm also up on Facebook, so you can find me in all 3 places. And then, of course, I have my website, which you have listed, which is authorccooper.com.
Awesome. So CC Booper Cooper. Sorry, that totally came out wrong. You know what, folks? You know what I'm saying. It's got a double C. It's not just author Cooper, because when I first read it, I read it as author Cooper and not author C Cooper. So make sure you find the right Dr. Christine out there. I It's a long day. What day is this? What day of the week is this? So don't spell it like I said it, folks. Go to the show notes. Everything will be in the show notes. All right. So I always like to close the show out on a quote that inspires you and why.
So this one is from Peter McWilliams, and it's "Be comfortable with being uncomfortable." And it's one of my favorites in life, because anytime you try something new, it's going to be uncomfortable until you try it a few more times. And then each time it gets a little more comfortable until you are actually comfortable. So I always remind myself when I'm trying something new and I'm trying maybe a new style of approaching somebody or a new a new quality program at work, something that's brand new to me. Okay, it's uncomfortable this time, and it might be a little less uncomfortable next time, but it will eventually be comfortable. And if I allow myself that uncomfortableness, I will get to the comfortable.
And in today's world where everything is moving so fast, and I think this is eh, definitely something we need to embrace, because if we're not growing with it, we're getting left behind,
Yeah.
right? So, uh, Dr. Christine, I thank you so much for taking time joining us. I'm super excited, folks. That book is Finding a Value by Dr. Christine Cooper. Our website's authorccooper.com. Check it out. We all need a little help right now navigating these crazy conversations and ensuring that we're being the best we can be. And, take it from the beautiful blue-eyed Christine Cooper that, you have to, what is that? You know, take your own medicine. And that's awesome that now you're sharing a healthier, better way to live in that emotional, that EQ space, because that's important these days. So,
Yes. And thank you, Kim, for letting me join you today. It's been a pleasure to meet you and have this chat. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
oh, I've got a few things here. I'm only allowed to vent twice.
Oh,
especially,
yes.
especially about my crazy family. I'm only allowed to vent twice. I think I've already surpassed that back in like 1999. I think I've just got to let it lie.
Haven't we all at this point?
All righty. Well, congratulations on the launch of your book. It's huge. I just want to put it back out there, folks. By the way, statistically speaking, less than 8% of North Americans actually write a book. And when you're talking about a whole book, it's less than 5%. And the average length of time is 5 years to put a book out. And just the fact that, Christine, you chose to put this out there and to leave a legacy that others can learn from. We thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Until next time, folks, give yourself some space and some grace, because you're worth it. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching. And you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.